I thank you for availing me audience at such a very, very short notice. I'm issuing this press statement in response, and not in reaction, but in response to the naming of the cabinet, of the other members of the cabinet, and the mini reshuffle that the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, has issued this afternoon. I'm really saddened by what has happened, especially the inclusion of members of parliament from the opposition parties and the leaders of an opposition party in that cabinet list. That for me states that the president has decided that he will govern this country without the constitution, that he swore to uphold and defend and promote when he was sworn into office, and which has an obligation as a citizen of this country, even without that oath of office, to uphold and defend and promote pursuant to Article 3 Clause 1 of the Constitution. And I would like to refer the country to Article 129 of the Constitution, which states categorically, 129 Clause 1 and 2, state categorically that the executive authority derives from the people of Kenya and shall be exercised in accordance with this Constitution. Number 2, in Clause 2, it says executive authority shall be exercised in a manner compatible with the principle of service to the people of Kenya and for their well-being and benefit. So I'm saddened that the last move of the president to include members of parliament from the opposition party ODM in his cabinet is totally insensitive to the economic times that we are living in, because it automatically occasions by-elections in those two constituencies, which was totally unnecessary, and that doesn't amount to a prudent use of public resources. Number 2, Article 4, Clause 1, defines Kenya as a multi-party democracy. A multi-party democracy which, under the Elections Act, allows for formation of coalitions which act as a political party and must function as a political party. And when people go to elections, they elect candidates and parties, especially a party running on a candidate running on a party or a party fielding candidates is bound by that requirement that Kenya is a multi-party democracy. There have to be procedures to be followed before elections and after elections that underpin that multi-party democracy character of the Republic of Kenya. And we saw when President Ruto first came into office, he began by buying off political party members to entice them across the divide, irrespective of the treaties that were in place or the agreements, and irrespective of the fact that the people of Kenya, when voting, expressed themselves categorically that they were electing these people to be on the side of those parties based on the manifestos those parties had sold to them. So under that principle of the multi-party, Kenya being a multi-party democracy, it's not possible for an individual MP or a political party to just cross the floor after an election. That particular provision also does not give the president the power to set up what is calling a broad-based government. To set up a broad-based government is to violate Article 3, Clause 2, which says that any government set up or established contrary to the Constitution is null and void. And so the president, by deciding to establish a government, contrary to the principle, which is a founding principle, because the Article 4 defines the character of the Kenyan state. And by the president choosing not to honor that character, he has totally declared to us that he's going to govern this country without following the Constitution. It's clear that the president does not consider himself as bound by the Constitution, and he can do whatever serves his political interests. And I think the time has come for Kenyans not to sit on the fence anymore, but to rise up and demand that the Constitution must be respected and honored. So, my statement is that the government the president has proposed to establish, the cabinet, is totally unconstitutional. Some of the considerations of giving people jobs because they are his former girlfriends, like he said about the Tuya. One place he said she was his former girlfriend, and therefore, how is that a qualification for a cabinet position? That's a total insult to the people of Kenya and the Republic of Kenya, and we cannot accept those kind of considerations to pollute the public space. We want people to be elected on the basis of competence, not past romantic relationships. So I am today calling on the people of Kenya, and I'm stating that my position is that that government the president is trying to establish and force down our throats is unconstitutional, even in terms of merit. If you go to Article 75, public authority, authority vested in a state officer should be exercised in a manner that brings honor to an office. When you give a job to somebody on the basis of having been your former girlfriend and it's a public office, what honor are you bringing to that office? So I personally do not agree with that cabinet. And I think going forward, there are going to be consequential measures that will be taken. We hope that the National Assembly will reject the entire list and demand that the president sticks to his coalition side and nominates members from his coalition who are acceptable to the people of Kenya. He should not nominate people from other parties without enabling legal framework. That's an attempt to set up a government contrary to the Constitution, and which act is invalid, null and void. And the people of Kenya, just like the Gen Z have been doing, should arise and invoke their power under Article 1 of the Constitution as a sovereign people, and see how we can govern this country directly without you going through representative institutions, which have basically failed us and continue to fail us, and they're even mocking us. Because if you look at one of the complaints about that the Gen Z had was against Murkomen. Now Murkomen is put in charge of the Gen Z. Honestly, what is going on in this country? Why should he insult us and then rub in the salt in our raw wounds? So I plead with my plea would be to the National Assembly to reject these people and to avoid taking this country in the direction the president wants to take it, where the Constitution does not matter, where lawlessness is the order of the day, and even the failure in Parliament, the incapacity of Parliament to deliver under a presidential system, the incapacity of Parliament to deliver has just been, should also be traced to that lack of respect for the Constitution, whereby MPs crossed the line and gave President Ruto a false majority in both houses. And that false majority is what is trying to consolidate with the help of equally unprincipled political actors who are in politics purely for purposes of making money and not to serve the republic, which actions I personally strongly condemn and I reject, and there are going to be consequential measures to be taken. And if that cabinet is established, some of us will be constrained to set up a shadow cabinet, because what will be happening now, we shall no longer be having a presidential system where you have got majority and minority sides checking the executive. We shall have a de facto parliamentary system where power emanates from the House, and therefore some of us must be constrained and will be constrained to set up a shadow cabinet that can then effectively check the excesses of this government, this mockerel that has been visited upon us, whose character we don't know, whose purpose we don't know. But as they say, if it walks like a duck, if it swims like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. And given that litmus test or the smell test of reality, I'm left with no option but to say that this is a self-serving government that does not address at all the concerns that the Gen Z have been raising and have been driving them to the streets. In Kiswahili, we can say, I don't speak very good Kiswahili, but I've heard things like kuruka makojo na kukanyaga mafi. This is what President Ruto has done for us, and I think it's not acceptable. That's my statement, and I thank you very much for giving me audience at very short notice.
Are you going to support legal action?
No, the legal action is being prepared, but we have to wait for the National Assembly to express itself before we can take an action. But we are in the process of preparing a petition to be able to challenge the constitutional validity of what has just happened.
Is Azimio dead on arrival?
I'm not a member of Azimio and I may not speak for it, because I know that right now, as I'm talking to you, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka has summoned his members. I've seen senators who belong to SOIPAN trooping to meet their leader. And so it looks like Azimio may have been torn asunder. But for me, I'm not a member of Azimio, I'm not a member of Kenya Kwanza. I moved in with my own party. And it's within my party that I'm going to set up, with like-minded Kenyans, a shadow cabinet, because effectively we are now under a parliamentary system and not under a presidential system.
Last one. Kenyans are asking, does the president listen? Does he listen?
I don't know. I think maybe listening is you can listen and misunderstand. So I don't know that he listens, but I can't speak for him on that. I can only judge him on the actions he takes. And I think he has shown us the middle finger, because by putting Murkomen in charge of the Gen Z, the president has effectively shown us the middle finger that you can go to hell with your demands. And that's what is happening.